college, it was very tough to get information. You had to go to libraries, and you had to go to something called the stacks, which meant that in every library, in the basements and other areas of the library, you had to find periodicals, which are like little journals, little books, for every single part of what you were looking for. It took hours, and usually there were no real good copy machines, so you had to write your notes, and you had to revise things. There was no way to really check vast areas, just what was available in the area around where you were working.
Life without the internet is we had to use our phones to call our friends to see if we were going to go out or what our plans were. We had no cell phones, so we didn't do that. We had no way of looking things up. We had to go to the library and photocopy encyclopedias and periodicals and all different things like that when we did our research.
Back then, without the internet, it wasn't as easy to get information. I remember having to go to the library and look things up in a card catalog and check out books, which now isn't as much of an issue. A lot of things are different. You couldn't go shopping online. You had to, again, have a book, a catalog to pick out things and call and order them. You had to call and order airline tickets. A lot of things were different.
We went out a lot more, and we hung out outside and played outside a lot. And then once we did get the internet, when we were a little older, everything became more indoors and focused on being inside.
Without the internet, you actually had to talk to people face to face, and I'll include texting in the internet. You actually had to go outside. If you wanted to know something, you couldn't just type in a question in Google or search bar. You actually had to go in encyclopedias or in books, or go to the library and look it up. Sometimes the books were outdated, so you didn't always have up-to-date information. You had to use mail, and it took longer to communicate. You couldn't send email, so you had to send a letter.
It opens the door to many new things. An opportunity to see different places, to crisscross information, to sometimes be led to some place that I hadn't thought of, or things I hadn't thought of, and I saw later through the internet. I think it's a wonderful tool.
It influenced life by immediate communication. This way I could talk to my friends very quickly because of the email and instant messaging and having me be able to get information very, very quickly.
It's made it easier, I know, for my students to be able to access information while we're at school, and that's been a nice thing for them. And it's changed a lot of things. It just makes it easier to get things done.
I shop a lot more, so I spend a lot more money than I need to. But I guess aside from that, and research became a lot easier too. And when I was in school, doing my research for school became a lot easier because I didn't have to actually physically go to the library. I could do it from the comfort of my bedroom in my pajamas.
Well, it makes my job easier. It helps me to look things up that I'm not sure about. It helped me reconnect with old friends through Facebook, people I haven't seen in 20, 30 years.
I think it's very positive in the sense that it can open up information to you, but it also can be dangerous if you don't know how to use it properly and you just seem to use it to cruise and trust it entirely, because anyone can truly post on the internet without being checked, whereas before, when you looked in periodicals and books, you had a bibliography, you knew who wrote it, you knew whether it was real. On the internet, anyone who's a fraud can actually go on there and post things that people may think are true and can be a scam and can hurt someone. So I think it's important to realize it has good points to it and bad points to it.
I'm a little concerned because of the access to all different types of information that's out there now, especially for young kids, that they don't understand how to filter things, and that a lot of people believe everything they read on the internet, and that's not necessarily true.
I think it's a good resource to have that makes things accessible for people worldwide. It's a good thing. There are downfalls, of course, but ultimately I think it's a positive.
I can't imagine life anymore without it, I guess. And yeah, it makes everything much more easier, much more convenient. We have knowledge just constantly available to us. So.
I feel the internet is both good and bad. I think it's good for many ways, but the reason it's bad, I'll tell you why it's bad. Because people can spend hours and hours on the computer without actually interacting with people face to face, and that's being lost. People also can spend hours and hours on video games. Kids can spend hours on video games and never leave the house. Also, it gives rise to people who are maybe doing inappropriate things, bad things like bullying, like they can bully people online without actually, anyone knowing who it is. Like, so there's a lot of bad things, but good things, makes work a lot easier, and I guess that's it.
Can we pretend that airplanes